Imagine waking up tomorrow to a world where not a single cent is spent. No coffee, no groceries, no online shopping. Everything just stops. At first glance, it might seem like a quiet day, a break from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. But in reality, the consequences of such an event would be far-reaching and potentially catastrophic. The American economy, and by extension the global economy, relies on the constant flow of money. And if that flow were to suddenly halt, even for just 24 hours, the effects would ripple through every part of society. So, what would really happen if no one spent money for an entire day? Let's explore. To start, let's picture that first morning. You wake up, reach for your phone to check your email, maybe scroll through your favorite shopping app, but something is different. Nobody is buying anything. Everywhere, people are going about their daily routines, but no one is making any purchases. The streets might still be busy, but the stores are empty. Cafes and restaurants, usually filled with the smell of fresh coffee and breakfast orders, are eerily quiet. No one is buying gas, no one is making reservations, and there's an unsettling pause in the usual flow of transactions. At first, it might feel like a minor inconvenience. You can skip your morning coffee or delay that online order for a day, right? But the consequences go much deeper. Let's start by looking at what happens to small businesses, the backbone of the American economy. These businesses depend on daily revenue to pay their employees, keep their doors open, and stay afloat. For them, a single day without sales isn't just a blip on the radar, it's a potential financial disaster. If thousands or even millions of people don't spend money, those businesses lose out on critical income that they rely on to cover their basic operating costs. For larger corporations, the situation may seem less dire at first. Companies like Amazon and Walmart deal with billions of dollars in transactions every day, and surely they can survive a 24-hour pause in spending, right? Not quite. Even these massive companies would feel the impact almost immediately. Their stock prices could dip as investors begin to worry about the sudden halt in cash flow. The supply chain, which operates on razor-thin margins and precise timing, would start to feel the strain as orders are delayed or canceled. What seems like a one-day pause could quickly snowball into logistical nightmares, with warehouses full of goods that aren't being shipped and employees left with little to do. And speaking of employees, let's not forget about the people who depend on daily wages or tips to make ends meet. In service industries like restaurants, retail, and hospitality, workers rely on the steady flow of customers to earn their living. A day without spending means a day without income for millions of workers, many of whom are already living paycheck to paycheck. The effects of this 24-hour freeze would be felt most acutely by those who are already struggling to make ends meet. As the day progresses, the ripple effects would start to spread. Public transportation systems, funded in part by ticket sales, would begin to feel the pinch. Without revenue from daily riders, cities might struggle to keep buses and trains running. Airlines, hotels, and tourism-related businesses would also take a massive hit. For an industry already operating on slim margins, even a one-day disruption could lead to cancellations, layoffs, and long-term financial instability. Let's now turn our attention to the government. Tax revenue is a critical part of how governments function. Every time you make a purchase, a portion of that money goes towards sales taxes, which fund essential services like schools, roads, and emergency services. If no one spends money for 24 hours, the government loses a significant amount of revenue. While one day of lost taxes might not immediately result in budget cuts, it would create a shortfall that would need to be addressed. Over time, if such spending pauses were to continue, governments could find themselves struggling to fund critical services, leading to cuts in public programs or infrastructure projects. Meanwhile, financial markets would be in turmoil. Stock markets thrive on activity, and when consumer spending drives the economy, markets respond accordingly. But when that spending stops, even for a short period, investors get nervous. Prices could plummet, and the overall value of the market could take a significant hit. The volatility would send shockwaves through the global financial system, and what started as a 24-hour freeze could turn into a full-blown crisis of confidence. Online services wouldn't be spared either. While it might seem like online transactions are separate from the physical world, they are just as vulnerable. Streaming services like Netflix or Spotify, reliant on subscription fees, would see a dip in revenue. E-commerce platforms like Amazon would grind to a halt. Websites that rely on ad revenue would suffer as web traffic slows down. The entire digital economy, built on the constant flow of microtransactions and data exchanges, would be disrupted. By the end of the day, the damage would be done. Small businesses might not recover, employees who rely on daily wages could be in financial distress, and governments would be scrambling to make up for lost tax revenue. The stock market might begin to stabilize, but the confidence that underpins our financial system could take much longer to restore. One of the most significant long-term effects of this experiment could be a change in consumer behavior. People might start questioning how they spend their money and whether certain purchases are really necessary. This kind of shift in mindset could lead to a prolonged decrease in spending, which would only exacerbate the economic downturn. A single day without spending could very well turn into a week, or even longer, as people begin to adjust their habits. So, what's the takeaway here? The economy is incredibly fragile, more than most people realize. It's a complex web of transactions, relationships, and trust. When we spend money, we're not just buying things for ourselves, we're supporting a vast network of businesses, employees, and services. Halting that flow, even for a single day, could have devastating consequences. In the end, a 24-hour spending freeze is not just an economic experiment. It's a reminder of how interconnected we all are. Our spending doesn't just benefit us, it supports our communities, our governments, and our financial systems. When that spending stops, everything begins to unravel, and rebuilding the trust and stability that our economy relies on is no easy task. So, next time you reach for your wallet, remember that every dollar you spend plays a part in keeping the economy running. A day without spending might sound like a break, but in reality, it could lead to a breakdown that we might not be able to recover from. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. What do you think would happen if no one spent money for 24 hours? Let me know in the comments below, and stay tuned for the next video, where we explore more fascinating scenarios that shape the world around us.